Hey, Rod, what do you do after a sudden and unexpected loss?
Wow, that's a great question. I think fortunately today, our friend Mary Lynn is going to help us answer that question.
Fabulous.
Good. Hey, this is Rod.
And this is Chris
We are Unqualified,
and Unsupervised.
the show where two guys try to figure out life after loss with no experts, no scripts, just experience.
We're going to have the unfiltered conversations about hard topics that no one wants to talk about, but everyone should. Coming from a couple of guys who were forced to join a club we didn't want to join. Hey, Rod, how's it going this week?
It's going really, really well.
Good to see you back.
So what's
here.
up?
So I was going to ask you that. So what are we talking about today?
Well, I think we're going to talk about what it's like to experience a sudden loss. And we're going to talk to my friend Mary Lynn, who at a very young age lost her husband to a very sudden loss.
So like got the call in the middle of the night?
I think so.
Oof.
I'm not sure what the story is.
Ouch.
Yeah. But like what's it
Yeah.
like to receive that call? What's it like to get that news?
Mhm.
And what do you do? How do you react to that? How do you deal with that? Because it's just you're just thrust into this whole
Right.
world that
Oh,
world that you thought you were going to lead ends.
Right. It's
Yeah.
and then the shock, the emotional trauma and shock of that. I
Right,
would
right.
suppose.
Right.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about who is our guest.
Mary Lynn, I met her a couple years ago. She came in, she was a new client, cut her hair, and we just hit it off. And some time went by, and I found myself at a Christmas party here about a year and a half
Okay.
ago. And all of a sudden, I struck up this conversation with this very vibrant person. And then her husband shows up, and I'm like, well, I recognize him from the YMCA pool.
Oh, so
You know,
he's
it's
a
like,
swimmer too.
Yeah, he's a swimmer too.
Excellent.
And all of a sudden we connected, and we just were kind of off to the races. We would get together for lunches and coffees.
Mhm.
And when I told her we were going to do this show, I thought you need to tell us your story. So that's where Mary Lynn comes in. She's just a student of the world. I
Okay.
mean, she's studied different religions. She's just a fascinating person. She's just done so many things in her life,
Wow.
and she has a very wonderful energy about her.
Mhm.
So that's
Okay.
that's why I think she'll be a really good
Perfect.
conversation today.
All right. Excellent.
On the show today, we have my friend Mary Lynn to talk about her experience of loss at a very young age. And Mary Lynn, welcome to our show today.
Yeah, Marilyn, thanks for coming.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
So tell us. We had a conversation the other day, and you were telling me about your experience of being a very young widow, and just now in discovery that you were under the age of 30 at this point. And
Wow.
walk us through this. Like when you found out that your husband had died, what happened? What was the process that you went through? Like, what was your immediate thought? How did you feel? Just walk us through this experience that you had.
I'm happy to answer this question because I think for very young widowed people, the immediate shock can be one of disbelief and alarm, and it can be a great deal of panic. And so after all the funeral processes were over, I had to deal with, well, he belongs to the ages now. He's no longer here. And understanding that certainly it's not like a divorce. With a divorce, perhaps the other person is still around, but this person is gone. And so you can't talk to them. You can't talk to them.
Sure.
So one of the first things I turned to was journaling. And I was able to talk out. My feelings and my emotions and sense of loss and sense of abandonment. Although I have to say that at a young age, and I was under 30, one is pretty resilient then. And under the circumstances, 6 months into my widowhood, I realized that this person was gone. I was not defined by the legal aspects of marriage. I wasn't born a widow, in other words. I was not born a widow. I was born a person. I was born a single person. And so even 6 months after, I started to look around and look at how my life could again have other purposes.
I'm going to touch on the definition thing. You said I'm not defined by this. You're not defined by the marriage, the widowhood. Where does
yes,
that?
I wasn't defined by the widowhood because around me, there were so many people who were getting divorced at the time. And this was what defined them. Another person defined them. They hadn't developed their own personhood. They had developed something perhaps more codependent on that other person. They hadn't given themselves a chance to know who they were. And I asked myself a bunch of big existential questions, even back then. Who am I? Why am I on the earth? What am I going to do going forward?
What's your purpose?
And of course, I was in a big urban.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was in a big urban area at the time. So opportunities to grow were rife. I was finishing my master's degree at the time I finished it. I finished modeling school, and I was not interested in being a model. I was interested in putting my wardrobe together.
Right.
And I finished travel training school. And so I went ahead, and some of it was hard at first because, you weren't coming home to a person, you were coming home to a home without that presence there.
Mm-hmm.
But it was something in me was extremely resilient. I don't call it personality or character, but there was a will to live there that I had.
You didn't die that day.
No.
He died that day, but you didn't die that day.
But a piece of you does die when that happens.
Absolutely, but
and it changes who and what you are, I would think.
Sure.
I think unrealistic hopes and dreams die, because going forward, for me anyway, I was able to look around marriages, other people in relationships, and say, I don't think I'd care to do that, or that would be interesting, or whatever. But there were so many different alternative lifestyles where I lived in this big urban area that you could go, you could see, you could watch and see it all unfold. And I did a great deal of observing, a great deal of analyzing. And the other thing of it is I learned to be my own best friend. I learned that being by myself, I could have fun. I could enjoy my own self.
Yeah, that was a really tough lesson for me to learn, because my wife Janice was my best friend.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We did.
And Jeff too. Yeah.
We did almost everything together. We had our couple things that we did up, on our own that were our own thing for our own individuality. But man, yeah, it took a long time for me to become my best friend again.
You didn't collapse.
One of my focuses was God, was the nature of a divine being, that just I naturally turned toward that, and I can't tell you why. And so I began, coming out in the years that followed to explore different faiths. This was a rich experience. This was richer than anything else I know. And so looking at that and getting that underpinning made it possible for me to sit back and be peaceful. A lot of people get desperate and immerse themselves in as many activities and fill their calendar up so they don't have to be alone.
Oh,
absolutely.
That doesn't sound familiar at all. Hint, hint, hint.
And
I think we both did that.
Yeah. Okay, so so going back to the faith thing. You explored a lot of different faiths. You've talked with me about being Zen. We've talked about Judaism. What were the faiths that you explored in this time?
During this, I was raised Methodist, and of course, what you have to understand is my kaleidoscopic view of faith. Every religion, there's one lamp and many prisms. And so you can pick a prism and bask in it. But I was raised Methodist, and then explored Judaism with my husband, late husband, and then proceeded to go into the Roman Catholic Church once I returned to Iowa, then became Greek Orthodox, and then Episcopalian.
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
And so I'm not done yet. And so,
Okay.
Excellent.
Keep going.
I go to the Lutheran Church now, but I also share services. I go to services at our local synagogue. I feel religion needs to be free, and we need to be able to explore this so that we don't feel like we're in a box. Religion is man-made. It is made by man.
Absolutely.
Spirituality is another animal altogether. And spirituality is untamed, wild, and free.
How did this religion, this exploration, how did it manifest itself in you? Like how did it enrich you? How did you did it have a, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but I mean, like, how did it affect you?
So the question I had too is what your faith is now an amalgamation of all of those? Have you had more of, more influence of one or the other, or have you kind of said, nah, they're all not quite for me?
It's a purely Western mentality to say, well, are you Methodist or are you Catholic?
Sure.
That's purely Western. I feel comfortable sitting in a mosque. I feel comfortable sitting in a temple. I feel comfortable worshiping with the Catholics. I love it all because you look around you and you see people in the same boat you're in, doing exactly what you're doing, wishing and hoping for a good life, wanting to be good. And some religions in some places achieve it better than others. I think part of the situation is that as long as the religion doesn't impart a sense of shame and unworthiness and empowers us and gives us that joy to go on. I've been I can't say I've been a number of things, but I can't put my finger on it because all of this exploration has made me quieter and has made me happier. There's just no two ways about it. Quieter and happier.
Well, introspective. I'm just going to do a little side thing here. I came in today, and I'm gonna. I was
go on a
drinking.
tangent?
I'm drinking water, and all of a sudden, when you went off, and I was like, "Nope, I've got my caramel toasted caramel whiskey here," and I've transitioned to water to whiskey. This conversation,
oh boy,
warrants an adult beverage at in the mid afternoon while we're doing this. But you felt a sense of fulfillment in going through these things. I mean, you strike me as a very curious person, and that you're always seeking education and enlightenment, and you're not done. I mean, there's more to explore, right?
Oh, absolutely. This is just a kick being in this life because it's so full of surprises. And after I weathered after I weathered that death event when I was 29, I'd listen to other people and listen to them complain about their hangnails or whatever, and I'd go, "Oh dear, I can't." Because by comparison, I'd already aged so much inside.
You were light years ahead of them, because that's a great point to bring up.
Yeah,
it's like how you hear other people. It's like, really, you didn't get mayonnaise on your salad, and you were upset by that. It's like, are you joking? I mean, it really it clears out the trivialities of life. Let's get real here,
Yeah, it does. But life is about perspective. So if you've never had this kind of an event and you don't have that perspective,
right?
Your worst thing is your worst thing for your life.
It taught me to be compassionate and patient with that, because there's no change in that in people. You're not going to move them. And so it's not that you withdraw, but you look at them in a different light, and you hope the best for them. You hope that something as shattering as what happened to me does not happen to them.
Right. I hope a hangnail does continue to be their worst thing.
Right.
I actually do, because they don't need to go through this.
That's right.
And I want to swing back to something you said very early on. about the panic.
Yes, that's in my notes too. Yeah.
Because like you said, being so young, and not knowing where life is going, the panic that set in, and yet I was 49. I had 5 years to prepare for it, and when she took that last breath, I panicked. I still had that kind. I don't know that I had a panic. I'm guessing probably not the same as yours. I know it's not. Nobody's is the same, but I still panicked.
What was the panic about? I mean, this question's for both of you. What? When Jeff died, I didn't feel panic. I mean, but like, why panic?
Well, for me,
Yeah,
it was the finality that the end was there, and now is what I've been planning and getting ready for really going to happen, or what? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen now.
Okay,
and that scared the snot out of me.
I think fear of the unknown
Yeah.
was the thing. Except that I was working full time at the time. I had no choice, and so I had to bite the bullet.
Mm-hmm.
And to be really honest about it, it was the discipline of getting up in the morning, dressing, and then eventually I taught on television, and so I had to look nice on television. I taught in high schools on television, and so that was after a while. But you have a responsibility to others too. You have to face it, and it takes not being prima donna and not throwing fits, leaning into the fact that you are a vulnerable person, that you are not perfect, that you are. I have to tell you Can I tell you a funny anecdote?
You can tell us anything.
Please.
We're go.
When I taught on television, I left my wireless mic on, and I said to the tech, "I have to go to the bathroom really bad." So I waltzed into the bathroom, and fortunately, I wasn't talking to myself, singing or praying. And I flushed the toilet twice and came out. And the first thing I heard over the air, and three high schools and principals heard, was, "Did you flush twice?" And so the principals, 3 principals wouldn't let my principal forget it, and they had a great deal of fun with it. But it did something. It did the right thing to my ego. It did the right thing to my ego. It put me in a place where I could laugh at myself and enjoy myself. Be able to tell this in the right company, of course. Be able to tell it and be able to say, this is who we are. We're people. We're vulnerable. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to mess up.
How much did humor play in your healing? Because people think I've got a odd sense of humor about this, because I said, well, Jeff and I were lucky. We made it all the way to COPD. And they're like, what? I mean, like how lucky are you to make it to COPD? I said, well, he didn't have a heart attack. He didn't have cancer. He didn't have a stroke. We were lucky. We made it all the way to COPD. So you have to have a sense of humor about certain things. Otherwise you'd really lose it. So how did your humor, in these events play into your healing?
I have to tell you that one of the earliest times I had a belly laugh was over Graham Greene's novel, The Comedians, which is black humor.
Right.
I laughed very hard, and went on to do a humorology class, and actually became a humorous after dinner speaker, talking about the different types of people. And so humor is absolutely wonderful. Humor is one of the best healers. Definitely.
Right. I see Chris is smiling. I think he's got a story to tell us.
Well, I just, it's not even really a story, but it's the fact that, she had a diverting colostomy, and we used to talk about how she was a great on a road trip because she never had to stop. She had a place to go wherever she went.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's that dark
it is.
stuff that like you shared with her,
Yep, it is. But
well, like one time I was putting together a playlist for Jeff's visitation, and we were standing in the living room one day, and I said, "There's some music I want you to listen to," and he was listening to this. He goes, that's the music for my visitation. I said, yeah, you've got to hear it. I mean, he almost kind of laughed too. It's like, well, I felt it was important that he knew what would be in the background,
Sure.
and just a quick note. I'm very proud of Jeff for his bravery when it came to dealing with his mortality and that type of thing. So it's I mean, it's an amazing thing, and I'm just really thankful for that. So, and that's another question that I have for you, Mary Lynn. Gratitude. You and I have talked about gratitude a lot. And how did gratitude, I mean, at a young age, how did gratitude play into it, or were you aware of gratitude and the effects of it at that age?
I was, and I was acutely aware of it in the big city where I live, because I could look out on the lake and I could say, I'm alive to take all this in. This is a once in a lifetime experience. What other once in a lifetime experiences can I have? And they came very fast. They came quick and fast. As much as I wanted to risk, as little as I wanted to risk, I found something. But right now I'm sitting enjoying just a beautiful view where I live, and I'm grateful for that. But I learned early on to sit still and just look. And it's in big cities, you can sit in a cafe and people watch, and it's such a delight, because you can watch people and you can see the emotions play across their face. I'm an artist, and so I also sketch and paint, and so when I see somebody's beauty, worthy of being reproduced, I take note of it, either by journaling or other means. One of the things I love to do is praise. I love to praise, and
You're very good at it. Yes, you've been very, very generous. No, with me, I mean, in our text, she's very generous to me. Yeah, and I appreciate that.
Well, but I mean, it's just seeing who's in front of you in the moment, not being someplace else, not thinking of a response right away, not second guessing people. And part of it is being curious, but part of it is also no thought, going into something without preconceived notions. And those have been surprising moments as well.
And that's hard for a lot of people to do. Most people have their preconceived notions, and they're hard to let go of.
Well, I was going to say, let's explore this a little bit, because the sitting still, I've heard clergy give whole sermons about the stillness and a reference to the Bible, sitting in the stillness. And my friend Colin and I have talked about this, and he reminds me, Rod, have you been sitting still? Have you just like turned everything off and just done that? No, I'm not very good about it. I'll give credit to my first boyfriend, Michael, who introduced me to Quakerism, which is exactly sitting in the stillness. And it's hard sometimes. I mean, for your mind to settle, it might take a while. But I thought this is a very important component of the grief process. I believe that it helps you to get in touch with how you feel about things. And then the no thought concept is very important, because it's hard to get to no thought.
Yeah, I don't think I ever get there.
It really is hard, because I think a person has to be kind to themselves and start it with 10 minutes or 15 minutes and call it a day if you can't do it, and don't call it a failure. And then go back to it and try it for 10 minutes again at some point.
Well, Michael was good, because I'm sorry, what?
I sit every morning for 30 minutes.
Is that Zazen? Is that Zazen that you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
With a group of people. And we're absolutely still. We don't have to say a word. And it's people of all ages and faiths. And that grounds me in the day. Then I can go on and say, Mary Lynn, how are you going to be to the world today? And what is your attitude? Because I think attitude is everything. I think attitude is absolutely everything toward aging, marriage, other people, world events, whatever. The attitude. And so I sit, and then at the end of the sitting, I form some kind of intention for the day, how to go through the day, what not to say if something comes up.
You create your day. You create your day.
Absolutely. You can always see triggers. It's easy to find triggers, and it's easy to blame. It's really easy
I
to
blame
blame.
people all the time. I'm very good at it.
Oh, yes, you are. You blame
horribly
me
good
all
at
the time.
Okay, so kind of getting okay. So the no thought and sitting there and creating your day. My question is, what's the difference between just being still and meditation? Because something tells me that this is a meditation for you.
It is a meditation. Meditation means that you're perfectly aware of what's going on around you. You're perfectly aware of everything in front of you, but you're disengaged from it, and you're letting the thoughts enter your mind and flow through, and the emotions that come up. Oh, I'm feeling angry. Okay, well, there it goes. And waiting it and watching the anger fade away. And so it's a process by which you go down into your stomach, you go down into your solar plexus, that's the center of your body, and you sit and you breathe, and you say, I'm sitting here right now, and this is what's in front of me, and this is all I have. And then you're centered. It's very simple, but it's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy.
The
That
breath,
makes any sense.
the breathing is really important. Like being aware of your breathing, you know, because I know that's in yoga practices, that's in other cultures, and so the breathing is part of what you're doing as well.
I don't get caught up in the breathing ever.
Oh, okay.
Because if I'm caught up in the breathing,
Screw the breathing.
Right.
Who needs to breathe? No one needs to really breathe. You just hold your breath for 30 minutes and go. You know.
Yeah.
It's like music. It's like our director never lets us breathe. You know, it's a joke. It's like, do not breathe through this phase. You know, can we breathe through this song? Nah.
No.
You know. But no, I just wanted to know what that. Okay, so moving ahead, you've gone through these processes, and tell us that you find love again. That you've worked through this, and it's not over. You're a young person, and you're doing these things. You're enjoying life. You've got it together. But there's love on the other end, right?
There is love on the other end. I inadvertently made a phone call, and it ended up. I ended up reconnecting with my high school sweetheart. We've been married for coming on close to 30 years now.
Congratulations.
Wow.
That's amazing.
And so within less than 24 hours, I was a fiance and then became a grandmother.
Oh.
And so that was
crud.
Bada bing, bada boom.
That was a dizzying moment. And so that was joyful. That was joyful stress. There was no doubt about that. And
joyful stress.
I would live through that. Yeah.
Joyful stress.
Yes.
Okay. That's a new one for me.
Wanting the child's birth to be safe, which it was.
Sure.
And so, yeah. And so I can't say that my journey, I can't say that my journey is atypical because of the way it started and the way it is right now. But what I do, everything about what I do in Zen with the Zen meditation informs our relationship and informs my relations with people around me. And I'm not putting a plug that people should just become Zen. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that the discipline of getting up in the morning, finding what you're grateful for, and that in itself is a discipline, to see what you're grateful for, to be able to count is what makes my day buoyant. It's what gives lift to my day.
Sure.
And it's hard to be grateful when you experience this kind of loss and grief.
It ebbs and flows. I've talked about this. It's like there's times I don't feel grateful. It's not that I'm not grateful. It's just I'm not feeling it today.
Right.
I don't think that that's wrong. I just think that's the ebb and flow of emotion.
Sure.
It is. It absolutely is the ebb and flow of emotion, and it's just I couldn't agree with you more. And it's riding that wave, and then it's being able to get outside of it and say, well, that was an interesting episode. Now let's see. I've got to cook dinner tonight. Now what are we going to have? Sure. And get back to the basic, the basic prosaic things of life.
Right. Did you find that being grateful was sort of a practiced skill, that it was hard and it took more effort in the beginning and it didn't happen as often, and the more you practiced it and worked at it, the easier it got?
Definitely. Yeah. I would say definitely.
Yeah, I found that too.
It is a discipline. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I did the
Yes.
same thing. I had to spend time putting my clothes out every night. So then I would
Yeah.
put them on in the morning when I got up. Otherwise,
Yes.
I would lay in bed after the alarm went off, and I would get up and I'd walk around the house, and I would just not focus. But if I did it the night before and it was all there ready to go, I'd get up, take my shower, put my clothes on, and go start my day.
But you're talking about rituals. So which raises a question for me and for you, Mary Lynn, is like, what were your rituals? I mean, because that's a ritual, right? When laying your clothes out and being purposeful.
Making coffee was the first ritual. Absolutely the first ritual. And so this morning I strolled out and picked fresh mint because the weather is beautiful and put it in the coffee.
You have fresh mint?
Nice.
Yeah.
How do you have fresh mint?
Mint is.
Yeah, I know. It's March.
Yeah, it's growing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so
Wow.
the smell of coffee, I think the smell of coffee has always been, and I've always enjoyed cooking. And so this is something cooking is something I instinctually turn to. And because I could talk to the vegetables as I chop them up. And I could
I'm usually on medication when I talk to my vegetables.
I'm just supposed to talk to the plants before you chop them up to help them grow.
And tell them how beautiful. I tell them how beautiful.
You're a beautiful rutabaga, but I'm going to chop you up.
And you look delicious. I can't wait for you to be in my tummy.
This is it exactly.
Actually, I want to know, what do you tell them? How do you talk to them?
I tell them what beautiful colors they are and how they're going to flavor my food so beautifully, and they should just shut up and get with it.
That's really good. I'm trying to think of other things that we've talked about here. I mean, so you've gone through this loss, you've gone through this process, you've found love. You know, what happens next? I mean, what's the future?
Yeah, since I'm going to be 80 years of age, I'm beginning to look.
Wait, Chris, I'm gonna interrupt her. You would, when you meet her, you would have no idea. No, she acts like a 50. No, she acts like a 50-year-old.
Yeah,
she has the energy of a 50-year-old.
Well, you saw my eyes when she said that; they popped.
Yeah.
You do not sound like you don't have the voice of an 80-year-old.
No,
you don't have the diction, so to speak, of an 80-year-old. Yeah, I would not have guessed that.
No. Yeah, you would say 50.
Yeah,
easily. Okay,
absolutely.
But go on with your story. Yes.
So, what was the question?
What? The memory's going already, is it? It was the future. What's the future? Okay, because I find myself in a very similar situation. I ask myself, what's my future? You know, because here I am. I'm single. I'm gay. It's hard to date. What's my future? You know, Chris has found love, and a couple of times. I found it once and lost it again, But you're on the road, possibly again, maybe.
I'm on the road.
Right.
I'm not giving up.
Right.
I'm not giving up.
But you know, like what's the future? What can you tell people about the future? Like, give us hope.
Well, I would say not to push it. I would say if you take delight in the little things and put one foot in front of the other and really take a look at who you're talking to and don't have expectations. Nothing happened until I gave up expectations.
That's important. That's important.
After I gave up expectations and stopped worrying. I stopped worrying. I thought, why am I worrying?
So you went on with your life. You just went about your daily routines and rituals and things like that, and let the other stuff just fall into place. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it is. It is accurate. Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm kind of at that point. You know, I go about my daily routine. I go to the gym. I go to my work. I do these things. You know, and I don't concern myself with the things. I'm gonna throw this out too. It was said to me once recently that if it's right, it's easy, and if it's easy, it's right. And that seems to apply here. Because Jeff and I never had an argument. It was the most easy relationship I've ever had. We were totally compatible. You know, when I compared with my other relationships where there's maybe some tension. But I don't know, maybe this is a question for you as well, Chris, about, you know, your...
To a point, I believe that.
Okay.
You know? Because, I mean, almost 24 years of marriage. Janice and I had our arguments.
Well, yeah.
We had our times.
Yeah.
But it was easy to sit down and work on it and figure it out.
She gave you the space to
We gave it to each other. But I guess
Right.
some people, when you say, if it's right, it's easy, means that you never have a conflict, you never have an argument, nothing ever goes wrong, and those things happen. I think when it's easy to work on it and fix those things, that's when it's right.
Good point. Because Jeff and I did have our tensions.
Yeah.
But one of us was a grown up. I'll let you know. I'll let you
Oh, it
figure
was
out
Jeff. I know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Every
Oh,
time.
yeah.
But no, but we had our moments, and we had some really tough discussions about some things.
Sure. But when it's hard to have even start those discussions,
Right.
when you avoid them, and when it always just makes the problem worse,
right,
that's when it's hard.
Yeah, because we didn't
that's
have
when
that.
It's probably not right.
We didn't have. In fact, there was one time Jeff did something, and I almost started crying because it was like, "You are such a decent, wonderful human being." I hate to say, it was something really trivial about the dishes or something like that.
Sure.
And it like. He's like, "Are you okay?" No, because you're so wonderful, and I feel bad, kind of saying this to you, So anyway, Mary Lynn, join in this conversation.
I think both of you. I think both of you have hit the nail on the head with that, because if it's right, you're going to sit back and you're going to ask yourself, well, am I being a doormat? No, I'm not. Am I being aggressive? No, I'm not. When you find your normal place, then you can speak in a normal voice and say something realistic that is going to help solve. I don't think life would be the same without conflict, but I do think that approaching conflict with I statements, how I feel,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to being accusatory or vindictive.
Like you did this, and you make him like,
right.
This is how I feel, and that's very true. Yes, I'm not saying that Jeff and I didn't have our moments, but I think Chris nails it too, in the fact that we gave each other the space and the ability, the safety in our relationship to be vulnerable.
Sure.
I'm, because I was so perfect during our, 16 years.
We know.
Okay. Did you all hear the eye roll that Chris just gave me?
You make that perfectly clear every time I see you.
It's like, but he was such a grown up, and that was really beneficial for me, because I learned from that. He was just wonderful. But giving people the safe opportunity to be vulnerable in the relationship is so important, and you obviously found that again when you got remarried.
Definitely, and it's it's dignified, and it's face saving, and it's respectful to give that space to people so that they can incubate, they can think about their side of it and make some kind of a compromise. I would not. I recommend, stepping back from a situation, giving it time to ferment or whatever, because there are always options and always solutions, except in the case of death. When somebody dies, they're dead. But there's always options and solutions for the living, no matter what.
Right. Mm-hmm. No, I just think that safe spot is so important. And I use the word respect, and that is that's critical. Huge. And that was the one thing that I noticed in my relationship with Jeff. We respected each other. And when I listen to conversations with people, you're not respecting this person. Why do you think they're reacting to you this way? They're reacting this way because you didn't respect them. And therefore you want respect. Mm-hmm. In order to get respect, you have to offer respect.
That's right. No mountains are going to be moved here. If you take a look when I was growing up, my mother, I was quite dramatic, and my mother would say, Mary Lynn.
I'm sorry. Really? Were you dramatic? I'm so surprised.
So she developed my conscience. She developed my social conscience about that. And so I can say to myself now, Mary Lynn, Don't you think you're kind of being dramatic here? And reduce whatever situation it is down to its simpler components.
Right.
Identify components without creating a Cecil B. DeMille production.
I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Wow.
Yeah.
As you're descending the staircase. Oh my gosh.
And 10 Commandments and Moses bringing the tablets down from Mount Sinai.
Oh my gosh.
And that's the other thing. I think people, people now, especially during these politically charged times,
Yes,
are making mountains out of molehills. And so it becomes vitally important to really say, what's the real issue here? What's the real issue here? And let's even write it down and let's take a look at it from all these different angles.
Writing it down is important because we've talked about that. And I've had that conversation with friends about writing things, because when you see it on paper and you can kind of get an aerial view of it, it does bring things into focus.
That's why journaling has helped so much, because if you're at a high fevered pitch of anger, you can put that anger on paper, then take a look at it, and then take a look. Oh, I would not dare want to say that to the person. Turn around, read it, and then burn it.
But you're purging it. You're purging it out of your psyche. Is that right?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. I use journaling when I went through therapy for grief. And I wrote, and my journaling was more about my experience and more so than my feelings.
Sure.
And I'm discovering it's now becoming a book. I am actually working on a book based on my experience as a caregiver.
But you're also wanting to help people. You want to help people who've lost their spouse or significant to cancer, right?
Yeah. So I'm actually.
This is a wonderful channeling of gifts. This is the highest form, that a person's grief can take, is to being able to turn around and look at society and say, hey, here. Come on over and I'll put my arm around you and I'll listen to you because I know a little bit about what you're going through.
Absolutely.
Although I think a person has to have boundaries as far as becoming a free therapist. I think a person needs to say no to some of that also, because little parts of you can be chipped away so easily. And then you really have no energy left for yourself. It's something, saying a good solid no when is needed is, after you understand you want to embrace the whole world, then you need to go back and say, okay, what can I really do?
Sure. Yeah, no, and that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to develop the business that I'm doing, as well as a health and wellness coach for people who are caregivers to cancer patients, is because they also need to take time for themselves.
Definitely.
You say, you got to say no for me. Well, you got to say, I can leave my patient, my loved one, for a half an hour and go walk around the block. I can do that.
Right.
And that's a huge thing to help. But, most people won't do that. They feel guilty or whatever, or they don't want to say no.
That guilt is terribly misplaced and terribly toxic. Terribly toxic.
Oh, very much so.
It has to be, you get up in the morning, think of 3 to 5 things that you want to do for yourself and go do them. Just do it like Nike says.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, Mary Lynn, I think we're running out of time, but I want to leave you with this. How do we end today? Like, what advice do you have for us? What can you leave us with?
Be a child again. Become a child again. Become open. Become curious. Become interested in learning new things all the time. That's the best advice I can give anybody, whether they're divorced or widowed or separated or whatever. Become a child. That way, the wisdom that you take in is going to be like, wow. If you're willing to be surprised, if you're willing to be amazed all the time, you're going to stay young. You're going to stay springy. You're going to stay fun to yourself. You're going to be fun to be around. You're not going to be a drag,
Wow, that's great advice. I
love that.
I'm going to absolutely embrace that for sure. Mary Lynn, thank you so much for being our guest today. I'm looking to the future. I think we need to maybe continue this conversation another time.
Yeah, I would enjoy that. Yeah, it was great to talk to you, Mary Lynn.
Thank you so much.
I'm honored to share with you, and I had a lovely time. Thank you
Oh,
both.
great,
Fabulous.
great. We'll
Thank
look
you.
forward to the future with you.
All right.
Thanks,
Okay.
Mary Lynn.
Thanks, Marilyn.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Wow, Rod, that was a really interesting conversation. Mary Lynn is a delight.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Oh.
She's done so many things in her life. My question for her is like, once again, how did she get this devastating news and move forward in her life? You know, clearly one step at a time.
Right. And I so respect the fact that she just picked herself up and started to learn as much as she could about as many different things and have as many different experiences as possible. Yet she took the time to sit still and see the world and see what was around her and experience.
Right. She wasn't hiding.
quietness.
She wasn't hiding in doing things. She wasn't like
Right.
me
Like,
myself
well, and I
throwing
did the
myself
same
into
thing.
work.
Yes.
You know, she didn't do that. She went out and learned, and how important was that stillness? Because one thing we didn't touch on was, I think, in the stillness we can hear our person.
Absolutely.
You know, because when I would sit still, I could always hear Jeff. He was always there, and I want to reassure people that have gone through loss. They're not far away. If we're still, they can communicate to us. They can talk to us, you know, and help us
if you're
through
open
things.
to it. Yeah.
Yeah. But there were things. The other aspect I thought was interesting was how she adjusted from a we to an I. You know,
Right.
because people, when you're lost, you know, like you and I both know this. It's like
Your
we-
identity's tied to your
Right.
relationship.
Oh, where, you know, there's Jeff
point.
and Rod. There's Jeff and Rod.
Right.
Where's Rod and Jeff? That kind of thing. And all of a sudden, it's like not there anymore.
Right.
How
right.
how do you adjust to that?
Right. Because I have people all the time be, oh, hey, Janice and Chris. Oh, hey, it's Chris.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, they had a hard time separating us.
and the aloneness.
Even though we had our own identities, but we
Right.
also had our relationship identity as well.
Right, you were
had both.
this couple person, you know. So that was interesting. The gratitude I also thought was interesting. How she
Yeah.
touched on gratitude. It's like how important. And for me, it's still an ebb and flow thing. I don't always feel gratitude for things, and I know I should, but sometimes I just simply don't feel it.
Well, and that's okay. I mean, everybody has different feelings on that, but I think it's important to know, or at least accept, that you want to have gratitude. You know,
Right.
I've had so many people tell me, "Well, you got to be grateful. You just got to be grateful."
Right,
I'm like,
right.
well, gratitude is really important, and the more
Right.
I do it, the more grateful I become,
But some
and the
days
more
I
I
just
appreciate what's going on around. But it like everything in life, it's a roller coaster.
some days I
Sometimes
just
it's
say
up.
screw it.
Mhm.
I just do not feel that way today.
Right, and I just don't care today.
Okay,
and you know what? That's okay.
Right. Well, another aspect too is the letting go, learning how to breathe again.
Even though she didn't.
Oh, jeez. All right, I forgot who I was dealing with. That's what she said. Anyway, all right, but no, but there are things that you do let go of. The death kind of puts a focus on what's important.
Absolutely.
You know, I just am reminded of, I've had the opportunity to talk with people towards the end of their life, and there's one gentleman, I asked him, I said, "What's important?" And he said, connection.
Mhm.
I thought that was, you know, from an 89-year-old man, I thought that was a very new agey of him, but it was important. One friend, she said family was important, and I do find that, you know, very fascinating. She was able to narrow in all of her life experiences. The family was more important. With the gentleman, with all of his life experiences, connection with humans is what he came up
Right.
with.
Regardless of whether it was family or not, or friend, or just anyone.
He wasn't worried about paying the rent. He wasn't worried about paying the bills. He wasn't worried that letting go of all that frivolous stuff, the things that we worry about every day, didn't matter. Family mattered. Connection mattered.
Right. And I think everybody has to figure that out for themselves.
Right. Like
in the moment,
what is your thing? Yeah.
What's your thing? But in the moment after the passing and the loss, you're so, you know, in such an emotional state that you're thinking of all this stuff: paying the rent, paying the bills. What am I going to do next?
Yeah.
What am I going to do at the house? You know, blah 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 blah.
Right.
And all of those things seem so very important. And I'm not saying they're not important, but at some point you have to do what Mary Lynn did: sit still,
Right.
and find that one thing
Right.
that's important for you. And then let that be your sounding board and how you figure out to deal with everything else.
Well, the one thing too, I know we've probably talked about this a little bit more today than I want to put a spotlight on the panic, because you brought panic in, but you have your own story about panic. See, I didn't panic. I collapsed.
Sure.
I was just a puddle. I mean, I just sobbed.
Right.
At the moment of Jeff's death. But you both of you talked about the panic.
Right.
And I didn't have that sensation.
When she drew that last breath and I knew it was the last one, that panic you get in the pit of your stomach when you know you've done something stupid and you're in trouble for it.
Okay.
That's what hit me. Because now,
but you hadn't done anything stupid. You hadn't done those things.
No, of course I didn't. I'd never done anything stupid. I've also never watched my wife die in front of me either.
Right.
So that was my visceral reaction. And
Okay.
instead of becoming a puddle, instead of becoming, an emotional blubber case, I guess you could say, like some people become or whatever.
Right.
And instead of becoming a very stoic, this doesn't affect me at all.
Right.
My reaction was panic. Like, oh my God, this is real. Now what the hell do I do?
Like what now?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, I mean, in every aspect of life, how do I keep the boys going? How do I keep the family together? How do I keep her mom, my mom? How do I?
You were trying to balance a lot at that moment.
Yeah. And it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning, and we'd been up since 3 o'clock the morning before that too.
Wow.
So that may have played into some of that, but
sure.
And I've talked to other people too who had that panic, even though they knew it was coming, and had actually made some pretty good plans for it.
But you knew it was. I
did.
Not to be
Absolutely
insensitive, but you knew it was coming.
I did.
I knew Jeff was coming.
That's why the panic surprised me.
It was not the emotion you were expected to have at that moment.
No, I wasn't expecting that. And then you have that panic of, oh, did everybody else just realize I had panic?
Wow. Yeah.
And then that makes it worse and starts to vibrate.
Who when she passed away, who all was there?
Oh,
was it just you?
There were, honestly, I don't remember who was in the room.
Yeah.
I honestly don't.
Yeah. I understand. Boy, do I understand that.
My recollection is there wasn't, if anybody, not very many people.
Right. But that's a very real sensation. It's like, I think I know who was in the room. I'm pretty sure I can nail it, but
yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
And there is something about that moment, because like with Jeff, we were just there, and we didn't know that was going to be his last, then it was,
right. Yeah. I knew when we were within hours of it.
Right.
Like 2 hours of it. And I did not want certain people in the family to watch that happen.
Why is that?
They didn't need to see that. They just didn't need to see that.
What was your concern about that?
I think it's a more traumatic thing than people think it is.
Right.
Emotionally and watching that last.
Were we trying to prevent them from having that memory of her?
No, not so much that. I don't know, and I'm not sure I can even describe or explain why I felt that way.
Right.
But I guess part of that's true is having been in the fire service and watching so many people die in front of me.
Right.
In way worse situations.
Right.
More traumatic situations that, like in car accidents and fires and, all the things.
But there you're separated. You're there as a service person.
But there's family, I've seen families see that.
Oh, okay. Now I understand.
I've seen families see that, and they just don't need to see that. Granted, this was a different situation, and maybe it would have been okay since it was more peaceful.
Right.
But there was still a struggle at the end.
Sure.
And I just didn't want anybody to have to see that last struggle.
Right. And that was with Jeff. He just faded. His just energy just kept dropping and dropping. He'd had a fever that day too, and they had to do that. Okay. They had to take care of that, and they did. And it was a couple hours after his fever broke. I really think that fever and all of that was his body going through the process.
Sure.
Yeah,
I see that.
It was unexpected.
Yeah, but see, now Janice didn't just wind down and go to sleep. She had a last struggle to get that last breath in.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
she was not going to give up.
But that speaks to her character, I
Absolutely
think.
it does.
You know, it's like, I'm not
Absolutely.
going out without a fight.
Right.
Not having met her, but
Right.
but on the
But it
stories
doesn't-
you've told me,
But it also doesn't look like a fight to somebody watching it happen.
you recognized what it was.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was the important part.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just all the stories you've told me that just seems to fit that this, like, I am not giving up,
Right.
and I'm not giving up easily.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Wow, this is
Anyway.
amazing. Okay, so
yeah.
what else do we need to cover here? Oh, that was the one thing. We're talking about the, like, not collapsing. Mary Lynn didn't collapse. She just kept moving forward.
Right.
You know, and that,
Right.
I thought that was an important a component of it.
Absolutely.
I'm
It's-
trying to
So many people do.
right,
And
right,
that's okay. But it's interesting that she didn't.
right. But at a young age, though, like, that she had the wherewithal
Right. That
to not do that. Geez, how would I have been at 29? Well, okay, we were also talking about earlier about, you know, kind of the parallel between her and Jackie Kennedy. You know,
Mhm.
Jackie Kennedy is, I mean, you think about her situation. Her husband is sitting next to her. He's like 2 feet away,
right.
and he's murdered right there in front of her.
And he lands in her lap.
And he lands in her lap. I can't imagine. You know, like what?
Right.
You know, we don't think about that because we see the Zapruder films and we see it from one angle. But what was her? What was her? I imagine it happened so fast that it didn't register. I mean, and I know, you know, they were, you know, the service officer, you know, was trying to get on the car, and I think part of it, she was trying to get him on the car to help.
Yes.
You know,
was.
she was, you know, and it's just wow.
Right.
You know, I mean, I can't imagine myself at 30, 31 having the wherewithal to think like that.
And not just panic and bail.
Right.
And try to cover yourself up so that you don't get shot too.
Right. And so it's just, I just can't imagine. So I think, you know, the getting up, and they also talked about Jackie Kennedy. I think it was her son's birthday, the day of the funeral.
okay.
You know, I mean, it was
Sure.
he was like turning 3 or 4 or something like that. You know, so she had to present normal to her family, her children, you know, and all the things,
And the country.
and the country. So we cover it.
I think so.
We did.
I think it's another good show. So we do want to hear from listeners.
Yes.
And all. We do have a website. Well, I have a website for my Forward Wellness coaching
Let's
business.
talk about that.
You know, Forward Wellness for caregivers, FOR, not the letter number 4, but Forward Wellness for caregivers.com. Go check it out. And we'd love to hear your stories, or if you have ideas for show topics, whatever, you can reach me at chris@forwardwellnessforcaregivers.com.
Yep.
You'll find us there.
Yeah. I can't wait to hear the questions.
I know,
You know,
right?
and how much we screwed up.
Oh.
You guys don't know what you're doing. We knew that. Hello.
That's why we called the show what we did. Unqualified
Unsupervised.
and unsupervised.
Absolutely.
Like, we're still amazed they give us microphones.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
I wouldn't have, but you know, hey, what the heck? So,
Thanks, Chris.
Anyway, yes, thanks, Rod, and we'll see you next week.
Yep. Until next time.